Hey, what's up guys? So today we're going to be checking out ZenonZard. This is a new AI card battle game that actually has a lot of cool, unique mechanics. And first off, thank you so much ZenonZard for sponsoring today's video, as I really did have a lot of fun checking out this game. And if you guys do want to go ahead and download the game, I can highly recommend checking it out, as it does have some really cool ideas that I think a lot of you guys will like in a card game. And that will be down there in the pinned comment as well as in the description box. So you'll see that my character is over on the bottom, and of course the cards that we have in our hand. But there's also these two little orbs, and these things are called forces. What they allow us to do is have passive abilities as well as an active ability that we're going to go ahead and activate when they are destroyed. Now, to win the game, the whole goal is actually to eliminate your opponent. So you'll see my enemy over there has 6 HP while we have 7. So depending on what forces you run, it may lower or raise your HP, which is actually a pretty unique mechanic. You don't actually have to destroy your opponent's forces, but if you do, they will lose out on that passive ability that can actually be really big. There's tons of cards in this game. There's over 500 cards split across different colors, and the current one that I really like is purple, which is kind of all about the trash, or if you want to call it the graveyard. Essentially, we're going to be bringing things back, and that's kind of how my deck plays, but we'll get more into that in a moment. But you also have this AI buddy that will be helping you along. Now, for some of you veterans of card games, you might not need the help, but sometimes it's good to see some moves that you normally wouldn't see, and this AI buddy that you have will grow and level up and adapt to your own playstyle, which is actually something that is quite unique and cool. And let me go ahead and show you guys really quick what that looks like. So if you want some help, you can go ahead and click where it says tap, and you can find out what exactly might be the best move. Sometimes it might be something super simple, like go ahead and just place some mana down, end your turn. But sometimes there will be lots of different options, and she might actually have a better idea than what you had. So definitely don't skip out on that if you have no idea what you should be doing, or just keep on tapping it once in a while, because you never know what other options might lead into another idea that you might have. So the AI buddy is definitely helpful with that new information. It also has the system where you're dueling against someone else's AI, so there's no really waiting for them to make the move, which is actually something that is quite interesting. And I do think that it's really awesome that you don't have to run into the situation where there's any BM where the opponent just sits there and stalls because he's actually going to be losing. So there's a lot of really cool ideas in this card game, but let's go ahead and hop right into some more mechanics, and then we're going to go ahead and do a full commentary gameplay. But one important thing really quick is make sure you guys go ahead and download the game right now to participate in the July event, because there's a bunch of extra additional things that you'll be able to acquire. We're talking up to 240 additional cards, and you don't want to go ahead and miss out on that. So make sure you guys go ahead and download the game right now using my link, so you guys go ahead and get a nice little head start. Once you hop right into the game, you'll have a short little tutorial, and then you're going to go ahead and actually be able to choose which AI that you want. This is the one that I decided to go ahead and go with, which is Medilla, and I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the brief little showcase of it. So you can select which different AI you want. There's skin, there's a different support over here, but Medilla over here is my favorite. I really just love the way that she looks. Plus, you can read a little bit about the character. There's kind of like a short little story that you can go ahead and check out if you want to as well. But there's tons of different code bands to go ahead and select, and you can select more than one. Don't feel like you're always going to be locked to one, but these will level up and they will adapt to your playstyle. So I would say try to pick your favorite one first, but don't worry if you happen to not like them later down the line because of their voice or their artwork. You can go ahead and select another one. But the more important thing that I want to focus in on actually is going to be the forces. So let's go ahead and hop right into that, and I'll give you a brief little explanation of kind of the way I built my deck. So first off, the forces. This is something that is quite important. So you'll see if I go ahead and select change force, we'll have all of these forces at our disposal. Now, important thing, you win by eliminating your opponent's character, not the forces. Some cards will get a benefit if you have maybe a destroyed force, you're going to get a bonus, or maybe if your opponent's forces are destroyed, you'll be also getting a bonus over here. So you'll see if I remove these, my life point actually will increase, but I can throw in different forces over here, and they'll change our life. I'm not going to go ahead and go over every single one of them, but I will go over the ones that we'll be using for the gameplay to kind of explain. So if I tap it, you'll be able to see exactly what it does. So Force of Insight Chiron over here makes it so it reduces the basic cost of the magic cards in our hand by 2, and when it's destroyed, they will also have another effect. So when this one's destroyed, we'll be able to search our deck for a base minion card and place it into our base, and then shuffle our deck, which is going to be kind of like our mana zone, so to speak. But we'll also be able to summon that monster later down the line, but we also get to draw a card. The other thing that I'm using right now is the Minotaur. This makes so DP damage dealt to your life by minions is reduced by 1. This deck, how it kind of works is I stall to get out a very powerful and boss monster. What Minotaur allows me to do is get me to that point where I'm able to stall. A lot of times people will go ahead and attack Minotaur first because they want to be able to get in that damage. The thing that I actually want to protect is the one that actually reduces the mana. Minotaur can die early on. It doesn't really matter for me personally. But there's other really cool options that I think a lot of people will like. And one thing that I think is really cool and that a lot of you guys might enjoy if you are interested in playing more flash cards, which are going to be cards that you can activate during your opponent's turn when they go ahead and declare the attack. So this one over here, Force of Rebirth Phoenix, allows you to make it so all of your mana returns to the active state at the end of your turn. So when you expend your mana, you're going to be basically getting it all back at the end of the turn. So when you want to go ahead and use your cards during your opponent's turn from your hand, you'll be able to have the mana to do so. You can still activate flash cards during your opponent's turn without this card, but usually you're going to be out of mana, so this is really ideal for those players that want to do more things during your opponent's turn. But there's a lot of really other cool ones to go ahead and utilize. Like I mentioned before, there are so many cards in the game, and they are kind of locked to colors. However, if you run the Force of Fusion Chimera, during your turn, you can use neutral mana as mana of any color to summon field summons. So that allows you to go ahead and not worry too much about the elements in case you're just starting out and you just have a lot of cards. Sometimes early on in games, you get all of these cards from different colors, and you can't really make a deck out of them because you're like, I really like this card, I really like this card, and this will allow you to go ahead and do so. But for the video, the ones that I'm going to be using are going to be the Minotaur, as well as the Chiron over here. But if you want to go ahead and check out my deck, this is not really going to be a deck profile, but I'll give you a brief explanation of kind of how my deck works, as I have a lot of very powerful monsters. You can see kind of the curve at which I have my monsters that will be like 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana. You can see I've just pretty much slammed everything into the very powerful and boss monsters. My whole goal of my deck is to utilize Ethereal Giant as well as the Belphegor, and what this allows me to do is go ahead and bring out powerful monsters at a much faster rate, because what I do is I send them to what's called the trash in the game. If you want to think of it as a discard pile or the graveyard, it's kind of the same thing from other games. But my whole goal is to summon some of these smaller monsters and have this effect where I can either reset some of the cards with Plantorna over here. I'm able to get discard any number of cards from my hand, then draw the same number of cards, and I put the discarded on the bottom of the deck in any random order. And then what I can do is use a lot of other cards like Metal Pecker over here to go ahead and just start sending cards to the graveyard. The way that my deck runs, because I'm running the card that reduces the cost of mana by 2, I'm able to go ahead and use Reincarnation with the cost of 5 to go ahead and bring back a monster that would normally cost 9. So it lets me get a field minion from the trash and put it onto the field, but the when summon abilities will not activate. Some cards they'll have an effect, like for example the Metal Pecker will have the ability when summoned it does something. It's very descriptive, and if you are kind of unsure on how the mechanic works, you can go ahead and just tap right on it and it'll go ahead and explain the mechanic completely. But yeah, my whole goal of my deck is just to send cards from the top of my deck into the trash, and hopefully we will get one of these. And if I happen to get some of these into the grave, I can kind of retrieve them from the graveyard without just bringing them back. There is a card that I have over here that does bring them back. I usually don't go ahead and use this because I prefer them in the graveyard, but sometimes maybe I lost out on all of my reincarnations, which is like a reborn, if you will. If I lose out on all those, I can still go ahead and bring back some of the other cards if I want to, and go ahead and utilize it, like Revenant, which is really good because this card is able to, when it's destroyed, bring back a bunch of tokens, so it helps me stall a little bit in case I don't have Ethereal Giant. The whole goal is basically Ethereal Giant. Alright, so one quick little important thing to go ahead and mention. So there are a few different things on the card that I wanted to go ahead and go over. So over on the top left, you will see where it says the number 4. that is how much mana the card will be costing to summon. You'll see that there is one purple, and then the other are blank. So the blank can be just the mana that you get for free every single turn, and of course the purple one, it has to be a purple one. And then on top of that, you'll also see in the bottom right over here where it says 1. So with our BP, this number in 400, that's the BP. So what that is when you battle another monster, you use the BP. But you use what's called DP, which is in the bottom right, when you are attacking your opponent's forces, or if you're attacking your opponent's face, that's the number that you actually use. So let's go ahead and get started with a commentary over here with the gameplay. So, of course, just like any other card game, you have to decide who goes first. It's just kind of random here. Then you're going to go ahead and select the cards that you don't want in your opening hand. Maybe you open up with too many late game cards, too many early game cards, or there might be some cards for certain decks that you actually don't want to draw. And I'll get into that when we get more into like kind of how my deck works. But in the very beginning, we have, of course, the main phase and then the mana phase over here. So during the mana phase, you're going to go ahead and actually be able to place mana. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pause it during the moments to explain certain things. So you can get a free mana over here. If you see where my little cursor is, you'll see where there says mana. You can get a free mana, or you can play a mana from your hand. Now the manas that you play from your hands will have certain abilities. The other ones are just going to be just flat mana. Later on down the line, I can, if I want to, summon my monsters from what's called the base. This area right here, when I'm mousing over it, this is called the base. So that is going to be an area where we can resummon our monsters, kind of put them, if you've played other games, think of it kind of like a bench. Like you can maybe dodge something, like if you don't want your opponent attacking that monster or disrupting your play, you can also put them over there. But in our instance, we're going to go ahead and place the 1 carat rat over here, and that's going to allow us to just draw 1 card. So it basically just deck thins over here. So I'm going to go ahead and place that, and it's going to give me a mana that I'll be able to utilize instantly. I'm going to play this card called Traveler of the Waste. Now, there's a card that it will search out for, which will give me a purple mana. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. I'm going to summon it. It will require that mana, of course, to summon it. And then, of course, we're going to go ahead and be able to search out for another card, which is the Wanderer. So that's just going to give me an extra purple mana. You can only play 1 mana per turn unless there's very specific, cards that would be getting around this rule. But I'm going to go ahead and summon that. And then I'm going to go ahead and also do another thing. I'm going to place the card that I just summoned in my base. What this allows me to do is later down the line, I will be able to use that card as mana. So I basically summon it, and then I'm going to go and place it on our base for later. You can do this for lots of different things. If you want to get out more powerful monsters a little bit faster, you can do so. But if my opponent over here was to, let's say, summon a bunch of monsters, I might want to use these to block. So I'm going to go ahead and just get a neutral mana, because I just don't want to waste the cards in my hand, because I have another card that lets me recycle some of the cards in my hand, which we'll get into a little bit later. But we're going to go ahead and summon this card called Metal Pecker, and what it does is it sends 3 cards from my deck into the graveyard. It's random. I don't have a choice of it. It's the top. So that allows my deck to do, because my deck's goal is to go ahead and actually basically reborn or bring back a monster out of the graveyard that normally would cost 9 mana, with a card that costs 7 mana, but I have a special ability that reduces the cost of the spells by 2. And you can see I'm just trying to save up my mana. My deck is just kind of relying on this certain win condition. You'll see I summon another Traveler. I'm going to go ahead and search out for another mana, because I do need to have certain mana requirements. For my card Reincarnation, I do need 2 purple manas. You can also ask the AI for advice, and one thing that I really suggest you guys to do is don't always take the advice, but at least click on it so you can maybe see a move that you normally wouldn't have seen. So my other perk over here is the Minotaur, which is the other force I have. That one kind of lets me stall a little bit. It doesn't let them attack my face as early on as some people would like. Some people just kind of ignore destroying the forces, as they do gain 8 benefits. So you see, I have 4 mana, but I need to go ahead and actually play another card over here so I can go ahead and build up my mana. I'm going to go ahead and summon Dirk, and that's going to go ahead and start sending more cards to the graveyard. What I'm trying to get is Ethereal Giant into the graveyard. There's another card, Belphegor, but at the moment there needs to be other cards for Belphegor to really become a lot more powerful, because every time he attacks, he's able to bring back another purple monster, which makes it very powerful. But Ethereal Giant is 100% my favorite card right now, because once that guy comes out, it's usually game over, especially if you can get it out earlier on in the game, because I'm summoning what would be considered a 9 mana minion at a turn where I've only got 5 mana. So it is very, very fast to go ahead and do this. So here's one thing that I want to mention. So I can actually block right here with my monster if I want to, or I can go ahead and just take the damage to the Minotaur. Minotaur doesn't really matter for me. It's not a card that I really need to protect. It's just literally to stall so I can get this combo out. And it lets me not have a lot of monsters early on, and I can just kind of use them as mana. So that's kind of my strategy here. But I have options for the reincarnation. So I'm going to go and play another purple mana because this card will cost 5 mana, and it does require 2 purple. Over here. Remember that I do have a reduction of 2. That's how I'm able to use it without the normal requirements of it costing 7. So I'm going to go ahead and select Ethereal Giant over here, and you'll see Ethereal Giant has a passive, so no other minions with 1000 BP or lower can attack, block, or move. And then at the start of your turn, all minions receive plus 100 BP. So it will start ramping things up, but you really only need maybe 2 turns to go by with this deck the way I've set it up, because I'm trying to make sure that I'm able to beat my opponent very fast. Remember, you cannot go for the face early on. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of one of his forces. Now, he did activate this thing called a flash. So what that does is it allows you to be active during the other player's turn. You can play the cards from your hand. Now, certain forces, one of them will actually regain all of your mana as soon as you end your turn, so that way when your opponent goes, you can still use your mana as it will refill. But for my deck, I don't really need that. That was another force that I did really like, and I'll get more into that later. But he's going to be able to activate that flash card. That's during the flash phase over there. I can also activate my flash cards, but I don't have any in this instance. My deck doesn't heavily rely on them. It's basically turboing out, getting our big boss and powerful monster. So remember, anything with 1000 or under can't do anything. But he did reduce my card, so now at the moment, this card isn't going to be able to do anything because he did reduce my BP with his ability from his flash card. But that's not permanent. Some of them are going to be more permanent than others. Some of them will be until like the end, or some of them will just like straight up destroy a card. So definitely you got to be kind of cautious about how many mana points your opponent has. Even if it's your turn and you're attacking, it would be kind of like the surprise factor. So at this moment we have another reincarnation. I can go and play another mana card, and then I'm going to go ahead and use my other reincarnation to summon another copy of Ethereal Giant. So Ethereal Giant hits pretty hard. It has 3 DP, and a lot of times you just need to attack 2, maybe sometimes 3 times. It's very rare, but just in case they maybe have healed or they got Minotaur, like you're going to be needing to attack 3 times. But for the most part, you can do a lot of damage. So remember, he cannot block even with all those monsters because his monster is under 1000, and that's what makes this deck very powerful. When you're able to get out something that's super powerful fast, it forces your opponent to react, and even if the card goes away, it's not that big of a deal. I don't need to go ahead and really attack anything. I'm just going to go ahead and pass, just in case he happens to get rid of my cards. I'm able to still kind of do something. But once you get 2 Ethereals, it's very difficult for, I think, a lot of decks to deal with unless they can board wipe, which purple has the ability to do that, but he's not playing purple. So it's kind of good to know exactly what options your opponent has. And I draw into another reincarnation, which was really, really OP here because I can get another powerful monster. Now, in this instance over here, we're going to get Belphegor. So he has the ability, when he attacks, he's going to be able to revive another purple minion from my trash. So if you want to call it graveyard, discard, whatever, he's going to be able to go ahead and bring out another monster. So I have some monsters that have effects when they die. It's called On Death. They will be gaining some type of benefit. Now, in this instance, it doesn't really matter too much what we grab because it's already game over, but I'm just kind of going ahead and showing you guys what else you can do. I'm just activating more cards. This one just lets me go ahead and send more cards from my deck to the graveyard. So if I happen to get another good purple card, I could use it. Now, in that instance, I want to go ahead and mention something. I actually happen to get another copy of Ethereal into the graveyard. If I played that first, I could have actually brought back another Ethereal, which I know it's overkill and it's completely pointless, but the fact that it is there is kind of cool. Now, what's important right here is with Ethereal, I also can't attack with my monsters. It's all monsters can't attack, but at this point, it's already going to be game over, so that's going to go ahead and be game. So just reducing your opponents to 0, that's going to cause you to get the win. Alright guys, so one thing I want to go ahead and add to it is I mentioned there was a few cards that I wasn't really interested in drawing. And sometimes what you can utilize is certain cards that will replace cards. Like for example, I have this card over here. If I left click and hold it down, it'll zoom it up. Plantorna, the Wise over here, lets us discard any number of cards from our hand, then we get to draw the same number of cards. So sometimes it's better not to use the mana in your hand because you can use the cards kind of as a resource to recycle and actually gain more card advantage later down the line. Because with some cards, for example, and this is a really great early game card, it's called Travel of the Waste. I can highly recommend you guys early on to craft this if you really want to go ahead and have extra consistency on the early game, not only giving you an extra mana potentially a little bit faster because you just go ahead and move it to your base, and then on top of that you're getting an extra card. So the Traveler of the Waste, awesome card. It goes ahead and searches out basically a mana for whatever color that you want to go ahead and add. So if you are doing some of those decks where you're trying to mix certain colors, this could be an excellent card to have a little bit more consistency with that. But the cards that like for example, I don't really care to draw is the card that he would be able to add. So as you guys can see, he's able to add the Miner of Aguma, the Priest, and the most important one that we have is the Wanderer of Thanatos over here. So that is the card that I don't really want to draw into because I'll be getting this card for free essentially with him. So sometimes I will recycle some of my cards with that effect, but those are the cards I wouldn't want to normally like open up with, or even just drawing in general. I don't really want to draw any of my super powerful boss monsters because I'm trying to send them to the graveyard. But one thing that I do want to go ahead and touch upon really quick that is really great in this card game compared to other card games that I'm so thankful that they have, honestly, because if any of you guys have played card games, sometimes it's really hard to get that one card that you need. You have to open up pack after pack. But if you go ahead and use the system over here, from the menu, you go ahead and select your card collection, and it'll go ahead and open up this page where you can see all of the cards in the entire game. Since I was playing purple, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the purple over here. But you'll see all of the cards, and you can sort them by however you want to sort them. There's this little search feature. If you want to go ahead and disenchant your cards, that's also an option to get what's called Spirit. But this is the crafting system that I really like. You can craft whatever card that you want to go ahead and craft over here. And if I want to go and create this, you'll see how much spirit I have, and I can go ahead and use my spirits to go ahead and craft the card. So it really allows you to kind of build whatever deck that you want really fast. And maybe you want to build a purple deck as well. You can go ahead and disenchant your reds, your blues, whatever colors that you want to go ahead and try to build your deck as quickly as possible, as this game early on will give you a ton of packs to go ahead and mess around with. But yeah, I'm so thankful that they have this because, again, sometimes with card games, it takes so long to finally build that deck because you simply have to open up so many packs, and this is a more consistent way to get exactly what you want. And since we're on the subject of course, building some of our awesome decks with some of those cards, make sure you guys check into the missions. I mentioned this earlier, but there are events going on right now where you can get up to 240 cards, and this will give you a huge head start on the game, so you guys make sure to download this game now so you don't miss out on some of the events. You can also use the hashtag ZenonZardACI to connect with other players and share your experience about ZenonZard. And that, guys, is ZenonZard, and hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the new gameplay mechanics. And if you are interested in it, definitely check out the link down below in the description box as well as the pinned comment to go ahead and start downloading and playing today ASAP. But thanks for tuning in, guys, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it, and if you are new here, subscribe and turn that bell to see more new card game content. And I'm curious to know if you guys are playing the game already, what deck and color do you guys actually enjoy the most? And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one, and I'm out. Peace.